I'm just wondering, is anyone at home right now sort of swooning a little bit, listening to the voice of Chad Daybell? I don't know. Lori was. What is it? Let's try to figure it out. Help me tonight. Break it all down. In New York City, host of Talking Live and the Bite-Sized podcast, nationally known psychotherapist Dr. Robi Ludwig. In Los Angeles, California, forensic psychiatrist, trial expert witness, columnist of Inside the Criminal Mind, Dr. Carol Lieberman with us. And also joining us from Los Angeles tonight, senior reporter for DailyMail.com, Caitlin Becker. Great to see everyone. Dr. Robi, what is it? Is there something, what is it about this guy, Chad?
Well, he wouldn't do it for me, but if we look at Chad as more of a cult leader, we see with cult leaders, they're very seductive, and very often their followers consider them godlike. And when you look at the personality traits of cult leaders like Chad, they're either very narcissistic to psychotic, and they give a lot of doting attention to women and are very seductive and use their sexuality. So it appears that there's something about that cult leader personality that can seduce very easily, and it's beyond looks, clearly.
Dr. Carol Lieberman, does God wear one of those short sleeve dress shirts?
That doesn't do it for me either. But, I agree with what Dr. what she just said. But also I see it in a different way. In addition, that I wrote, my first book actually was called Bad Boys. And certainly Chad is a bad boy. Now, what makes women attracted to bad boys? It has to do with a dysfunctional relationship with their father when they're growing up. So depending upon what kind of dysfunctional relationship it is, everything from a father who isn't there because, divorce, he died, whatever, or he's not emotionally there, to a father who's abusive, sexually abusive, physically abusive, all different kinds of fathers. You can have, I talk about 12 different types of bad boys. So you can have 12 different types of dysfunctional relationships with your father. And that unconsciously drives you into the arms of a guy. And what you're doing, again, unconsciously, is you're trying to relive a story. Not that the man has to be exactly like your father, but there's something about him that allows you to relive a story, and you're trying to make it come out better this time. It's Freud's repetition compulsion.
Caitlin Becker, let's take a listen to a little bit of the electricity and magic between this couple. This is a June 9th, 2020 jail call. Chad is still free at this moment, but Lori's locked up, and they are searching Chad's backyard.
Hello?
Are you okay?
So they're searching the property.
The house right now?
Yeah. Yeah. In the house. So Mark means will be talking to you.
Okay. What, are they in the house?
No, they're out in the property.
Are they seizing stuff again?
They're searching. There's a search warrant, and so what I'm interested in is with the kids.
Okay.
Wow, that is hot, huh, Caitlin?
Vinny, they sound like they're on Quaaludes, or like there was a carbon monoxide leak in Chad's house. I consistently fail to see all of those benchmarks of that typical cult leader with Chad. He never strikes me as dynamic or charismatic. I don't know if he was a different person when he first met Lori, but I don't see anything about him that would cause anyone to follow him to the store, let alone to salvation.
How about this, though, Caitlin? Let's Chad Daybell was doing a search on the computer, and it was with compatibility of signs, right? So take a look. He searched on March 3rd, 2019, are Cancer and Leo compatible? Are Taurus and Leo compatible? Here's the note. Lori is a Cancer. Chad is a Leo. Tammy, his wife, is a Taurus. So apparently maybe Cancers and Leos are a little more compatible, and it was that electricity. It was in the stars.
This shocked me today, Vinny. I would have expected that from Lori's search, not from Chad's. This definitely caught me off guard, especially since she was so obsessed with the malachite rings, and malachite is supposed to attract love and bring you joy. So she did seem a little woo-woo in that way. I was not expecting that from Chad. I guess that Lori was more compatible, and that's enough to get rid of Tammy. None of this makes sense to me.
Dr. Robi, no, it doesn't make sense. We always have to agree that what we're talking about in this entire hour doesn't really make sense. But I look at husbands 3 and 4, Dr. Robi. Joseph Ryan, good-looking guy. Charles Vallow, good-looking guy. They're both very successful. They have money. And I always thought that was, kind of part of Lori's thing. She wanted to be taken care of, a good-looking guy who had some dough. That's not Chad Daybell. He's I'm sorry, I'm going to say it. He's not really that good-looking. Like, he's all right. He's not Charles. He's not Joseph Ryan. And he doesn't have any money.
Well, right. So that is surprising, but that's where charisma can certainly come into the seduction. I also have a feeling that there is more of a psychotic core to Lori. So I think her relationship to reality is damaged. And somehow when she met Chad, their kind of grasp on reality was both challenged in a similar way. So there was this twinning effect where she felt like she was falling in love with a version of herself, and that together they could do something really important and special in the world. And it's something called a folie à deux. It's when two separate people have a shared, almost psychotic vision of the world, and it can be very powerful. So that's always been my sense, a part of what connected the two of them. He knew how to talk to her in a language she understood, and they felt very much in sync in a very psychotic kind of way.
And I guess, Dr. Carol Lieberman, you can find charisma in different forms, because I've been searching, trying to find that charisma in Chad Daybell, and I haven't found it yet personally, but maybe it's different strokes for different folks.
Well, I had said that the other night on your show about a folie à deux, that it's two people who do connect, and they both were both were looking into this kind of doomsday sort of cult and so on, and then they just kind of joined together like two stars, and they exploded, and so and yes, it is part of her psychotic beliefs and so on, but it is this folie à deux. Remember, I was saying that either she's manic depressive or schizophrenic or borderline or something, but there's a touch of psychosis that allows her to join with his.
Caitlin, another thing that surprised me in the way all of this has happened, because they really have not been together inside that courtroom. And here was an opportunity, a 2-month trial where they could be together every day. She never asked for severance. He did. Now, I understand the legal strategy behind it, but just understanding these two people that apparently did so much to be together had an opportunity to be together for 2 months, and Chad chose not to do it.
I don't think that Chad was as enthralled with Lori as she necessarily was with him, or with the idea of him. I think, to the doctor's points, there was so much psychosis in there that she probably really did see him as some sort of deity. And this deity that is otherworldly came for her. And that by association makes her special. So I don't think he cared as much. And I've said it before, I think when we get to Chad's trial, he's gonna throw her under the bus. And I think that Lori clearly wanted to be with him because we know that she asked her attorneys to ask the court so that they could have some sort of a private meeting, which of course the judge said absolutely not. So I'm not surprised she wanted it, but I think she firmly believes she didn't do anything wrong, so she's gonna be footloose and fancy-free as soon as this wraps up, and she's gonna get back to her Chad.
Dr. Robi, is there such thing as crazy in love?
Well, yeah, there is something called crazy in love, but I think what we're also seeing is, although Lori had her own problems, we hear what her son said about her, that she seems like a different person. And even her brother's like, this is not the Lori that I once knew. So is it kind of a cult, so that her pre-cult self was very different, and then she transforms into somebody who believes the most horrific is okay because she has bought this new ideology and is operating in accordance to her new belief systems. She doesn't seem like somebody who's been manipulated, but I think that is a part of the story, and Chad may see her as one of his many wives, or just one woman he conquered, and he has many more women to conquer. I mean, that's what cult leaders do, right? They're entitled to have sex with everyone.
They're always with the women. Every cult leader has something to do with sex. That's just from the cases I've covered. All right, the doctors are staying. Caitlin Becker, senior reporter, dailymail.com. Thank you so much. We'll speak again. When we come back, we're going to talk about Lori Daybell. Is she projecting? We've got all these statements she's making, accusing people of things that she's being accused of. We'll break it down next. Still with us, nationally known psychotherapist Dr. Robi Ludwig, forensic psychiatrist Dr. Carol Lieberman, also joining us tonight from Salt Lake City, Utah, religious cult expert, retired police commander, host of the Profiling Evil podcast, and author of Deceived. Mike King is with us. Great to see you, Mike. Mike, do you hear some projection there? Sounding like she's accusing others of what she's being accused of?
You know, I was never much into Shakespeare, but methinks thou dost protest too much. And it's often something that we see in these kinds of individuals where they deflect everything that's coming their way. And isn't it interesting, because if all of the other allegations prove true in the end, Vinny, everything she's saying would in fact be things that she was personally doing. This idea of money, I don't know how much my sister has in a life insurance policy, but I doubt that I'm the one named to be the beneficiary of it. So all of that just really is kind of crazy to me.
Yeah, Dr. Carol Lieberman, what are you hearing when she's accusing her husband, who ends up getting shot by her brother, of conspiring with her other brother, the DJ, to kill her for insurance money?
Well, you know, it's interesting. The other brother, Adam Cox, he apparently was conspiring in a sense, but in a positive way, with her husband, because they were both very concerned about her mental health. They both thought that she was getting crazier and crazier, and they were planning an intervention. So these texts and emails that she's talking about, you know, there probably were those things, but they weren't talking about, you know, killing her. The plan wasn't, or the plot wasn't to kill her. It was to try to save her from herself, get her help.
Now, let's take a listen to more of Lori Daybell. This is, again, during that welfare check, November 26, 2019.
What happened was, my husband, we were married for 18 years and had raised all these 5 kids together, switched his life insurance policy to her, right? To his sister, who got $1 million when he died, and we got nothing. For me to raise JJ, and all the kids got nothing, and everybody got nothing. She got $1 million. So I knew she was going to try to sue me for him, or she got us this $1 million, so she can hire people to help and not have nothing.
But you have legal custody.
He's my son. I adopted him. Right. He was 2 years. We had him from the time he was 8 months old until 2 years old. She does nothing but wants to cost me trouble.
Okay. What do you think of all this, Dr. Robi? all of a sudden now it's Kay, JJ's grandma, who's causing all the problems here.
Yeah, so I think with Lori, she has a little bit of a paranoid personality where she is suspicious of other people. And this could be because she disowns some of the